everyone, welcome to the first podcast. I'm here with Andrea Trujillo from Me and the Monsters, and we're just going to have a little chat about the wage gap and what's going on in our lives and whatever we feel like it. It's going to be a very free-flowing, very honest and authentic podcast. So, welcome. First, I'd like to promote a bit about what you're doing and talk a bit about you, so everyone knows like what you are about, where you come from, and also,
everybody knows that.
Everyone, that's the way to go. Like, I like the confidence. That's cool. That's cool.
I was being ironic, of course.
That's fine. Okay, so first, I'd like to introduce the show. Me and the Monsters, they're going to play a show in Klunkerkranig, am I right? Mm-hmm. The 23rd of November.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, if you guys have nothing to do, if you guys really like music, honestly, check them out. I love their stuff. Seriously. Like, I mean it. Like, I remember in the first class when you played the Shadow. Mm-hmm. How's it called? Like, the complete name?
It's The Shadow.
The Shadow,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you guys have an EP coming out, right?
Yeah. We have an EP that is almost finished and it will be out in the beginning of 2020, hopefully. Nice.
Yeah. That's good to hear. Mm-hmm. Is there already a name for the EP?
We've decided to call it Me and the Monster to be direct.
So self-titled.
Yeah, because it's the first EP that we put out, so we thought it made sense to not confuse people too much yet. So
cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can give us a bit of a hint how the artwork is going to look?
Not really. No, it's I think it's still us. It's quite focused on what we have been doing until now. Mm-hmm. So if you know anything about us, you can expect more of that. I'm just gonna
cool. I really enjoy like the jungle vibe you guys have.
Thank you.
It's like in the beginning, like when I first saw you, it was like there weren't any bands who were really doing it conceptualizing, and you guys really got it right from the beginning.
I feel like it's happening more and more nowadays. I've seen it in a couple of other bands that are doing it as well, like incorporating a lot of stuff on stage to make it more, look more like what it sounds, but. Yeah, I hope it's still something kind of new for some people.
Cool, and we just talked a bit beforehand, and you guys are going to have a video out?
Yes, we're putting a video out on the 22nd of November, if I'm not wrong. And we're really excited about it. It's one of our favorite songs. And I think that's all I can say for now.
You can't give us the title yet? What song?
No, I can't say that.
I understand.
I would have to ask the band.
Oh yeah, like of course, like keep it a secret.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be announced quite soon, anyways, because it's next month. But yeah, maybe we will try to make people guess.
Cool. With that, I want to jump into the topic. I want to talk a bit about the wage gap and the big difference between it right now. Like, I did a bit of reading beforehand, a bit of research about it, and for the people that still doubt it, I'm sorry, you're wrong. There is a wage gap and it's still present. Like I've heard that it's gonna take 100 years for it to completely close around the world. What do you think about that?
I think the world might be gone by then. So, I think it's ridiculous. I think anybody who thinks a little bit about it in depth will realize that it's crazy. I mean, there's no valid reason to have a wage gap. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like let's jump into the reasons, because like everything I say like everything has a reason. So like the wage gap originated from somewhere. This is what I read about it. Like the second wave of feminism basically opened the doors for women basically to first of all join the workforce and go to colleges so they have a degree and could basically compete with the men, so to say, and create some kind of difference in there. Where I want to go with this is that everything has a small reason, and where do you think like are the big main steps where we as people altogether should focus on to make this number go to from 70% average to absolutely 100%, that there's no difference anymore in wage gap?
Well, I think as most of the things in society, education comes first. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense to start putting new rules on or trying to convince people that are already in power or making the big decisions, because most of these people are not going to change their minds by now. So I think the focus should be education and trying to get rid of the macho culture, which is still very, very present in most of societies that I've experienced, at least. And yeah, just make people understand that the wage gap is only a consequence of a way of thinking and a way of putting men first, or putting men first in some things that don't necessarily make sense. Like I get that society used to be different and women used to not have education, so I guess that might be a reason, I guess, that they could have used to say no, you can earn the same because you don't have enough education about this, or you're not informed enough or whatever. But that's not the case anymore. So yeah, I would say educate boys and girls and whatever in between to not make a difference in any other aspect, not just this, not just work, but anything. Yeah,
I like what you say, like about boys and girls, that there is some development what we need to do. Like this is something very interesting. What I found that was so that gave me some good hope about this topic. Like the wage gap actually in the beginning, like if you have like a young woman and a young man, same degree, same background, just everything the same. The only difference is like their gender. And they basically go to the same job, they do the same thing, and the pay is actually almost the same. It's like 97%. But as soon as they start to get to the age of 30, we'll see like this huge drop for women when it goes down. And analytics of Europe, the analytical department of Europe, they basically describe it as I'm not really sure if I got this right of this point, but they say it is because of the parenting situation. Like I think like in society there's still like a very big, like the roles are very defined. Like, do you feel like that's still present?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as a woman, I've been told by my grandparents to start looking for a nice guy. I know, it's very funny but very sad at the same time. Yeah, you see it everywhere. I some months ago, I posted a video on YouTube about this woman who she was sponsored by Nike, and she was winning races, being number one in Olympic Games, and super out there, one of the best in the world. And the moment she got pregnant, her contract just stopped. Without having any insurance. I mean, it's the US, so we know how it is there.
Yeah, they're not that great when it comes down to insurances.
So she was basically left with nothing, no money to feed her child, no insurance, and all because she's a woman. And this wouldn't happen with a man, because obviously they would not get pregnant. But yeah, I think it's kind of ridiculous how on one hand we want to keep the world going, and we have to have kids, I guess, if we want to. But on the other hand, it makes it so hard for women to do everything, because that's what we're asked to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad story. Like, it is a sad story, but it is growing though. Like that, well, it's not growing; it's shrinking. Actually, the wage gap.
Yeah.
But that's something that at least warms my heart. That it's just a very like gender role kind of problem. The men also should basically have the opportunity to become the nurturing parent and take the maternity leave. as is the woman, so it becomes equal. And that's why I think it's like the government should step in and help out and make sure that bigger companies are required to basically provide for the family, so to say, that they can have the paid maternity leave for both genders.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not really sure with which country has this policy already. I mean, Iceland, they are one of the thriving countries that do this. They basically made sure that the men are also that they also have the opportunity to get the paid leave. So both parties are basically, they get the decision who is going to be paid less because they leave work.
Yeah.
Which takes a lot out of the sexism and shrinks the whole gap kind of thing. But it comes with a big price, you know?
Yeah, well, I think, as mentioned before, it all comes down to education, because many men would say, no, this is, like, it's the mom who's supposed to do this. So to come to the point where men are willing to do that and say, you know what, you earn more than me, or you love your job more than I do, so you keep working and I'm going to take the maternity leave. It doesn't just come like this for men, which I think it's also a process for them to understand, okay, I'm the dad of this creature, I'm also supposed to be there just as much as the woman is.
Yeah.
You can put the nature in between, and I've heard so many arguments of men saying, yeah, but you're more attached to the kid because you carry it inside of you. Of course, that's the thing, but I mean, we're also not made to be with our phones all the time, and nobody complains about that. So if you can step away from nature in some aspects, you can do it with this as well, if it's going to be a benefit for women. Which, I mean, in the end, I think it's a common benefit. You know, if you have 50% of the society happier, then it helps men as well. You know, it's for a dad to feel more connected to his kid. There's also beauty in that. So, yeah. Yeah,
like honestly, like I seriously respect the parent, like that basically takes care of the kid, because you're basically molding a person to become part of society. That's a huge job. Like you're basically like have a person's life in your hand, you know. Yeah. And like I come from a background where we had like sort of called a house father, you know, and that my mother, she was providing. So like I grew up in this environment.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, like I don't know. I felt like I felt like sharing that, you know, like. But also like what I find is like a very interesting point is that with some jobs, like for example business versus a scientific job, that the wage gap is also a lot different. Like with businesses it's a lot bigger than for example with a science job. To be honest, I don't think I know enough about this topic to say anything about this. So I don't even know what the reasons could be for this. Did you manage to? I looked. This is basically like what they had to say about it. It's like it's the flexibility also. Like a science job, for example, the boss, so to say, only cares like, oh, you know what, you have 1 month to finish this project. I don't care how much time you spend at work. I don't care if you have a kid. I don't care what the hell you do. Just get it done. And with businesses like actual like a business, they have fixed hours and you need to be there. You can't be flexible. It's also the flexibility in the job what makes it huge, and that's also what I find is so silly, you know, about it. Like this is also where the whole role thing just comes back again into the businesses. Like a business should be more flexible, you know, as well. Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about all of the bad things about it and how we see it, but what would then be a way to make it better? Like, what is in our hands to change this? I think, like, this is what I think, though. I think first thing, society should change the role how we see men also in society. That the man can also be a caregiver, really. And then if the government wants to help out or should help out, like I'm not gonna talk about it. Like that's I feel like a lot of people they're too opinionated about it and they don't know anything about it. Like I'm gonna say like, I don't know enough about politics and if they should. Personally, I think they should, but I have nothing to like stand by. They should basically make the role of the man also promote it a bit that the man can be the caregiver.
Yeah.
Then I would say that would already benefit the wage gap a lot. And of course it will not fix everything. It's a very complicated problem. Like it will take 100 years to fix this and it's mind-blowing really. Then there is a small point of sexism, and that's where basically the role of the women should be like more I don't know how to put this, but they basically like there's some sexism in there, and the role of the women should also be like that they can do the same job as men, because it is, of course it is present, there is some sort of sexism in the wage gap, but I don't think, and I know that because like that's what the statistics say, is like it's not, the wage gap is not entirely based about sexism. It's just a very small thing right now, a very small percentage of the problem that we have right now. Yeah, and that's basically like that's basically like the points what I wanted to make, of course. Do you feel like that there is do you feel like that you are directly affected by this right now?
I mean, being part of the music industry, I don't have a lot of experience. I'm still quite young, but I have already come to situations where, I mean, not with wage gap because we're musicians, we don't get paid yet. But where I don't know, if we're having a talk with somebody and it's a man, where they tend to look more at Nico, who's also like part of the band. And I feel like they take him more seriously simply because he's the guy. And this really irritates me. And it's what I don't understand why this happens. But I feel like I am affected by this. Maybe I'm just focusing on the macho culture here. But yeah, I would say that's one of the cases where I have felt that there's a difference. And besides that, I don't know, we're quite equal within the band. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had any personal issues with wage gap. Not in my family either. My parents worked together and earned basically the same for doing the same job.
But yeah, but you do say like people like still tend to go a bit more to Nico though than to you.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Nico.
No, it's not. I know it's not about him. I mean, he's not the one deciding this. It's the people. But yeah, I think I was also raised in a very neutral house where we're 3 girls at home, but we were never told how to be girls. Which is just, you know, we helped my mom out, we helped my dad out. We were taught how to use tools for constructing as well as cooking and cleaning our clothes and being self-sufficient without having in mind even the fact if we are one thing or another or non-defined or whatever we want it to be, you know.
That must be very cool, like the house that you grow up in. I basically have to ask for a final thing that you want to say to everyone who is watching, or some advice you would like to give to the people. I'm very rarely asked to give advice. I think the one thing that I try to tell myself every now and then, you know, in those conscious moments where you actually speak to yourself, is to try to do your best, whatever that means to you. And yeah, just be very critical about what's around you and not take stuff for granted. Because I think some things just get under the table very easily without really noticing. So yeah, be aware of what's around you. Yeah. Felt well put. I'm going to close the podcast right now. Thanks everyone for who's watching. Next Friday, I will be playing with Brooks Orion in Zosh. So please, it would be awesome if you people could come. Tune in next week Sunday for a new guest and a new topic. Bye-bye.
Bye.